Now available from FECON is Stumpex, a high-torque, low-maintenance stump remover that combines low-speed cutter action with durable AR500 steel blades, making short work of just about any 8-inch stump and larger. With planned maintenance and proper cutting practices, your Stumpex will yield many years of reliable operation. We're going to take a look at some of those important tool operations and required maintenance right now. The FECON Stumpex has several components that you will need to become familiar with: the gearbox, mount, bolts, frame, stabilizer, cone starter blades, main blades, and the Stumpex bit. It may be attached to a skid steer or compact track carrier with suitable flow on a standard frame mount utilizing the mounting bolts. You can either have an experienced equipment dealer do the installation or one of your machine operators who has the proper tools and experience to conduct a carrier install. The Stumpex may be used on various models of CTLs, including several popular brands of skid steers. Before you begin to use your Stumpex in the field, you will need to become aware of several safety precautions that will ensure against injury while providing for best performance. FECON cannot stress enough that safety comes first when operating your equipment. And operators should both become very familiar with their new Stumpex equipment and follow any additional instructions as laid out in the user's manual. Prior to operations, you should check all grease points and apply grease as recommended. And inspect all mounting bolts and fasteners to make sure they are tightened down. Your unit will have additional safety labels clearly marked, which are provided for your protection. When operating the Stumpex, it is important to understand that operators and those working in close proximity should be aware of a 15-foot hazard zone. Because of the potential for flying debris or falling objects, the hazard zone, as depicted in the following graphic, should be considered off-limits to all individuals. It is the operator's responsibility to ensure that no one enters the hazard zone during operation. A step-up of safety practices are required when working near streets, highways, in parks and on golf courses and other pedestrian areas, and near any buildings. In some cases, it may be important to string colored warning tape or signage to secure an area. In addition, when using a track carrier, you should consider the following. Always keep doors and windows closed during operation. If your machine is not equipped with a door, always wear an ANSI-approved hard hat when operating your equipment. Safety glasses or goggles should always be worn, and use proper ear protection. When operating your carrier or skid steer, avoid nearby power lines. Never move any equipment to within 3 meters. Please consult your FECON manual for additional safety tips and practices when preparing to use your equipment. Now, let's look at operation of your Stumpex stump attachment. When you get to the job site and before using your unit, you'll need to police the work area to provide for safest operation. Pick up any metal, wire, or plastic items and scrap which could be an obstacle to operating the Stumpex. Before use, contact your local one-call number to have underground utilities located before digging. Do not use your equipment where flammable liquids may be present. For proper operation techniques, do the following. Move the carrier or skid steer into position over the stump to be removed with the stump cutter disengaged. Position the Stumpex bit at a slight angle above the stump. Engage the Stumpex and bring the tractor engine RPM to full. Lower the boom and allow the bit to be pulled into the stump. The Stumpex will bore through the stump at 3/4 inch or 1 inch per rotation based on bit type. Depending on the hydraulic flow of tractor, this could equal between 7 to 16 RPM. You will allow the Stumpex to cut through the stump to a desired depth. When you have reached the required depth, disengage the Stumpex and remove it from the hole. For bigger stumps, you may have to process the base in sections, as represented with the following graphic. In addition, some larger stumps may cause the Stumpex to stall. This can be normal. If this should happen, simply reverse the flow and raise the bit out of the stump. Re-engage the stump at a slight variation of angle to create a different cavity of cut. When working on larger stumps requiring multiple passes, the operator should make a final front-to-back sweep with the bit to find any unprocessed sections. When the Stumpex has finished cutting, you will be left with a bed of wafer-cut material that can be easily shoveled or raked neatly over the area. Keep in mind that different flows from the carrier affect the depth per minute and RPM. The following chart will help you to gauge how much depth, flow, and RPM are needed for thorough removal. Once finished with your job site, you will want to clean your Stumpex and carrier to maintain peak running condition. Consult the manual for other cleaning procedures pertinent to your equipment. Now, let's look at preventative maintenance practices. At the time of purchase, the Stumpex was filled with the proper amount of oil and grease. During the first 8 to 15 hours of operation, there may be a noticeable amount of grease loss from the gearbox. This is normal as the bearings are becoming properly seated. Do not add grease at the grease points before checking the level at the check plug. Then add as necessary. You will need to check the gearbox oil level after the first 8 hours of operation, and then at every 40 to 50 hours thereafter. When having to replace and discard gearbox oil or hydraulic fluid, use an approved container and discard through a licensed processing facility. You should go over the machine and check that all bolts are properly tightened after 8 hours in the field, and then every 40 hours thereafter. An oil change should be done after the first 100 hours of service, and then each 500 hours or on an annual basis. When applying grease, use approved mobile grease and check the levels every 40 to 50 hours of normal use. Finally, inspect your blade before each use for nicks or blemishes. Touch up with an angle grinder as needed. This concludes the operation and maintenance of your FECON Stumpex stump attachment. By adhering to these practices and by maintaining a regular maintenance routine, you can expect years of reliable service from your equipment. Should you have any questions about your unit, please visit the FECON website. The FECON Stumpex for safe, tough, and efficient stump removal.